Hello and welcome. We are the AirRoute66 Guys. I'm Marshall.
I'm Dan.
Today it's our great privilege to have legendary TV and movie star George Maharis to talk about the making of Naked City, among other fascinating topics. Let's get him online.
Hello.
Mr. Maharis, it's Marshall and Dan from Alaska. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, it was kind of an overcast morning here.
It's about 25 degrees here, so the frost's on the pumpkin.
That sounds great.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's a little early for us as far as the temperatures
Yeah,
go.
it sure is. It's not even the end of fall yet, almost. But
On the Chugach Mountain side of Anchorage, they got about a foot of snow, and
boy,
even
that
in
sounds
part of
great. I
Anchorage.
love snow.
Oh, it's great.
Are you a skier?
Am I what?
A skier?
I'm not following what you're saying.
Do you ski? Mountain skiing?
Oh, no, I'm not. I see. You say, am I a skier?
Yes,
no,
sir.
I'm not a skier. I have the mentality of a horse. I don't want to break my legs.
I understand.
I don't mind breaking my arm, things like that, but breaking your legs, you're immobile. No, I don't want to take a chance.
Very smart.
So, I mean, that's really the main reason I never took up skiing. I've had too many friends who did it, who, tore ligaments, twisted their knees, too many problems with the legs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I said, no, not for me.
But I imagine a lot of people told you to break a leg when you were ready to go on stage.
And I did.
You're an amazing actor. I just.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
We.
Really do. I mean, that means a lot to me that people respect what I was doing
Oh
when I
yes.
was active in the business, because it was very important for me.
Yeah.
Well,
you-
we could tell that
to be
you're.
a good actor. I didn't want to be just a personality, so to speak. I wanted to be also respected for the work I did.
Yeah, you were.
You are, and it's amazing. The test of time for your work product is there,
Yeah,
definitely.
that is rewarding.
Yes.
You're right there. You're 100% right. It's amazing to see how people still get what you were doing 60 years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we're happy that you're still with us and that we can speak to you today. And we want to wish you a
You can't be any happier than I am.
happy birthday, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Cool.
Speaking of what we're going to talk about mostly today is Naked City. That's our area of interest today. We've interviewed you before.
That's fine. Yeah, I did 2 half-hour ones or 3 half-hour ones and 1 or 2 hour ones.
All excellent. And,
Yeah.
I
Well,
have...
the first one I did, I remember very, vividly. It was called Fire Island.
Mhm.
And I was working in an off-Broadway show called Death Watch, Jean Genet play. And I guess it was Marion Doherty had come to see the show because the play was a 3-character play, and the other person was Vic Morrow. He had the lead. And they came to look at him, and she went back and said, oh, yeah, he's terrific, Vic Morrow, but there's a young guy there you should take a look at. That was me.
Yay.
And that was the beginning.
Wow.
Well, what a
As
great
far as
beginning.
television was concerned.
We appreciate your providing some information on how you were selected because, you seem to fit right in. I know the word natural is probably, I don't know, that's just my way. It was a natural fit.
Yeah, I know, but that was an important word to me.
Uh-huh. You made it natural.
If I didn't believe it, how do you communicate to somebody else that what you're doing you believe? So that's the way it worked with me.
Yeah.
100%.
So on Fire Island, that was done in some cold weather.
Very much so. It was done on Fire Island, as I remember, and Will Kaluva. Oh no, that was the other one. The Fire Island one was. I think he was in it also, but I'm not sure. But Conrad was in it, who played the heavy. He was the big tall guy that later and did something on one of those police dramas.
Right.
Hill Street Blues.
Hill Street Blues.
Yeah, right. Hill Street Blues. I think that was it. Right. Michael Conrad, I think his name. Nice guy. Big guy. As a matter of fact, he was the original choice for Death Watch, the play that they saw me in, which was the Jean Genet thing, and he was physically right for the character because he was like 6'4" or something like that, and all that kind of stuff. And he was in rehearsal for I don't know two weeks, and they said he looks the part, but he doesn't have the anger. He doesn't have the stuff that we need for this place. So they said, who can we get? And the guy, one of the people there who was the assistant to the producer said, well, he's not right for the part, but I saw him do something and he's right for the part, and that's the way I got it. And that's the way they saw me for Naked City. That's the way it all started.
Yeah, well,
most of the stuff that I did off-Broadway, I was not right for. That was and the other one that I was not right for either was Zoo Story, which was a wonderful, wonderful play by Genet, called for somebody 38 Gone to Seed. Well, it wasn't 38 and I hadn't gone to seed. So there.
No, you did not go to seed, that's for sure.
No, when I auditioned for Zoo Story, the producer said, he's not right for the part. He's too young. He's too muscular. He's too good looking. And for the first time in a long time, Edward Alford said, I want him to play the part. And they said, but he's not right for it. And Edward Alford said, yeah, but he's the only one that understands it.
Wow.
So that's how I played Zoo Story.
So let me follow up on Michael Conrad for a moment. This is Marshall in Fire Island. And he played a character that I actually, being an Army veteran, I've met people like that. I mean, he had a machine.
I was in the Marine Corps.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service. And
you too.
Thank you. He had a machine gun, a water-cooled Browning machine gun, and he wasn't hesitant to use it. And
that's correct.
So my thoughts were, and I think you pretty much answered. You said Michael Conrad was a nice guy, so I'm thinking
he was a sweetheart.
Uh-huh.
He was a sweetheart. He was a big guy, looked like a nasty, nasty person, but inside he was one of the sweetest people you'd ever want. I was the opposite. I looked sweet, but I was the son of a bitch.
Well, that actually. Well, this is when you mentioned anger with the play, that Michael Conrad wasn't angry enough, and then we're going to fast forward a little bit to the Manhole, which was what a gritty, look at New York. It was fantastic. And,
it was a half-hour show, and Will Kaluva played my father.
Right, and what a great actor, but the anger
character actor, right?
The anger piece of it was like, where did you get that anger from? I mean,
I was an angry young kid. I just was. I grew up in New York City, and poor Greek family, and all that kind of stuff, and being a extremely independent kind of lone kid, the gangs didn't like me a lot, so I did a lot of street fighting, and of course I had an older brother, Harold, 1 year older than I am, but we looked like twins, you know, so they used to see him, thought he was me, and beat him up.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
it's true.
So you really
know,
fit
they
the
thought he was
part
me,
well.
You know, because we used to pass for twins, because I remember when we were like 9 or 10 years old, I always dragged my brother along with me, and I remember there was a movie house in the area that was letting twins in for nothing. And so I said, come on, we're going to the movies. And he said, wait, he said, never mind, just come along. So he went there, and of course the woman looked at us and said, oh, you're twins. And I said, yeah, that's right. And she said, oh, well, who's the older? I said, he is. Because my brother didn't talk a lot. And she said, oh, that's nice. How much older is he? I said, a month. And she said, well, you can't be twins. I said, don't tell me. He's my brother, I know. And she said, don't tell me, I'm a female. What the hell's that got to do with it? Well, of course, years later, I understood, but it was always remember that. But she let us in anyway.
Oh, that's great. You know, another thing about Fire Island, if you don't mind me backing up a little bit, is any thoughts about Guy Raymond? He seemed to be in several TV episodes that you appeared in, and he seemed to be a gentle sort, but any comments on Guy Raymond?
No, he was pretty much the way you saw him. But what's his name was not. Michael Conrad was quite different. He was, you know, he looked mean, but he wasn't mean at all. He was quite different inside than he looked outside. But Raymond was he was pretty much the way what you saw was what you got.
Huh.
Okay, well, very, very good. We're going to move up a little bit to Death of a Princess, because you talked about fighting a little bit. And you played a boxer in Death of Princes. It was very...
Yeah, I think that's the one with... who was the guy that played the crooked cop? He was a good actor.
Eli Wallach.
Yes, Eli Wallach, right. Eli was a bad cop, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, this
what
was
about it?
a couple of things. The writing was superior, and also the question for us is it seems so relevant today. In other words, you got a
Absolutely, yeah. Well, that was Sterling. Sterling wrote the script. I'm pretty sure Sterling Silverton wrote that particular episode. He wrote a lot of Naked Cities, and he also wrote a majority of the Route 66s. He was very prolific, very talented man.
You know, it had all the elements that people are complaining about today with the police. You know, the illegal shootings, but it also had a positive aspect of it with Paul Burke, who would not cover for Eli Wallach in his bad acts. And
correct.
You as a
Burke was the guy who was the lead in Naked City in the hour show. He was not the lead in the half-hour show. It was somebody else, a blonde fellow whose name escapes me.
James Franciscus.
That's it, James Franciscus, correct. He was the lead in the half-hour show, and when they changed to an hour, Paul Burke was the lead.
You know, those fellows looked a lot alike. Is that why Paul Burke got the part?
Well, I don't know. What's his name was a blonde, and Paul Burke was not. I don't know why he got the part, because he was just there when I got there.
I see. Well, it's quite the Death of Princes is quite the topical. I mean, it just seemed like it could have been made yesterday. And
That's true.
Getting
That's
back
true.
getting back to the boxing aspect of it, was that shot at the boxing? Was that shot at a live? Were you there when there was an actual boxing event going on?
Well, we used the area, and there were people training and boxing and amateur boxing going on, and professional boxing going on. Oh, yeah. Bert, who was the producer, Bert Leonard, really, really believed in authentication. And that's one of the reasons we went on the road with 66, because it was as authentic as you can get. We were right there, period.
Did you train as a boxer? You look pretty convincing in that boxing match.
So I'd done a lot of street fighting, so I was pretty well aware of boxing. It didn't take a lot for them to show me pointers on boxing, because when you race in the streets in New York, you learn that very quickly.
Yeah.
It's amazing, what you brought, the reality. I mean, it's just nothing like television today.
No, it's nothing like television today, and I don't quite understand that, but we don't have the kind of producers that Bert was. We don't have the kind of writers that Sterling was. They dealt in raw emotions and factual incidences that happened, and when we were doing Naked City, also with 66, we did very little in the studio. A lot of it was on location, even then Naked Cities, it was in the gymnasiums, wherever you saw them, which really lends a lot.
Yep.
Absolutely.
To the authenticity and the aura and the feel of the whole thing, and I preferred that. I really did. When they told me that they were going to shoot the show on the road, that didn't bother me at all. I liked it.
Yep.
I get such a thrill just of looking at the street scenes, the architecture, the signs, the people. I mean, there's a lot of genuine people. They don't look like extras. They look like.
Well, exactly. A lot of the people, even in 66, were local people in the areas that we were shooting in. Always used as many of the locals as they could, as opposed to, professionals.
Huh.
They have a different quality. It's as simple as that.
And the word is quality, because it shows, so much difference between then and now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now it's kind of, you can see the people acting, and then, you aren't sure whether they were actors or real people.
Right. That's absolutely amazing, because when you bring that up, everything you tell me triggers something. And I was thinking about in the show that Death of Princes again, Jan Miner, who became the Palmolive lady, from my understanding.
Right.
I had no idea at the time that they were the same person. I mean, she looked so perfect for that role. A woman who's in distress, who's...
Yeah, well, when you give people the opportunity to do something, a lot of actors don't like to say, I don't like that, or so forth and so on. I had no trouble doing that, and, when they started with the makeup and the so, I said, no, the only thing, because the show was black and white, they didn't even need to worry about the beard, because usually in black and white it doesn't show up, and in color, sometimes they have to cover your beard because it comes across as blue in color, but not in black and white. So, when we were shooting 66, makeup was nothing, zero. What you saw is what you got.
So,
Marty had a little more trouble because he had freckles, and they wanted those covered up, and of course, he didn't have prominently colored eyebrows, so that, because of his coloring, he was a redhead, and so what they would have to do is pencil in, and that's it. And also with the eyes. But for somebody like me with dark hair and dark eyelashes and dark eyebrows, no problem.
Absolutely realistic, the black and white. I appreciate your technical commentary on that. Like I say again, Jan Miner was so impressive, because now I understand that she wasn't wearing makeup, and that's why the reality came through. I mean,
Well, Burt Leonard was, that was one of his, specifications from the standpoint that, realism was very important to him, and it was to me also, as it was to Sterling, and as it was to most of the directors that we had. Whenever you had a director who didn't agree with those kind of terms, as far as I was concerned, they were in trouble. Because, I remember once I did a show, I finished where I was supposed to be, I think it was with Ethel Waters, and I was supposed to be a jazz and aficionado, and the next show, the director didn't want me to be a jazz and aficionado. I said, I can't do that. I just did a whole show with Ethel Waters where he said, I don't care about that. I said, I do.
Well, like I say, everything you tell me has another question. So my thoughts on the jazz, like in the Manhole, that jazz background music was fantastic to set the scene. So I'm wondering, did they, the jazz aspect of it, was that post-production, or did you hear in the music?
Yeah, that's post-production.
Okay, all right. Well, it just
post-production, but that again was Burt Leonard who, that's what he did in Naked City, and that's what he did in, all his work.
It's a cut above what we hear today, believe me.
Oh boy, it's more than one cut above.
I agree.
As I'm concerned, a lot of cuts.
Yes, sir. Getting back to Four Suites of Sweet Corners, that episode was considered like the pilot for Route 66.
Correct. And that young fella there, who was my buddy, was the original choice for the role that Marty played.
I see.
And I was told, because when we did that, I was told that he was going to be and then I went off to do Exodus in Israel while they were putting the package together and selling it.
Uh-huh.
So when I came back, I didn't realize that they had hired Marty and let him go. Why, I don't know.
Uh-huh. And then he died shortly thereafter, too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Unfortunate, but many young people have met the same fate.
I don't remember why he died. Could you refresh my memory on that?
I actually don't know, sir. I don't know.
No, I don't either.
Uh-huh.
I know he died young, but I didn't know why. I don't know whether it was some accident or some disease, or I don't know what the hell it was, but he was a nice guy.
Yeah, he came across very well. The end of I can see exactly when you guys leave. You've been to New York, and then you go on the road, and then Johnny's mother wants him to stay, but that's you. But you're aching to find out, to be let go, to find your own answers. The final scene shows Link and Johnny, you guys walking off, and definitely was a prelude.
Yeah, but it was a little bit different in the pilot with Marty, because we find out that Marty came from wealthy people, and the car, the Corvette, was a final last gift from Marty's father before he died, and that's the last thing he had. So, I was working for Marty's, according to the new concept, I was working for Marty's father, and Marty's father would always put him on the same crew that I was on, and that's how we got to be buddies. And then when the father died, we went on the road with the car that Marty's father has bought for him, which was the only thing he had left.
Wow.
Which was quite different than the Four Sweet Corners.
It was, Four Sweet Corners is touching from so many different ways, including Link.
I liked it a lot.
He claimed that he was from a wealthy Southern family, and then he said he told you the only thing that he ever lied to you about was the fact that he had no family and no wealth.
That's right.
I mean, he said he was
Marty's family in the pilot, his family was wealthy, well, kind of wealthy, and when his father died, all he was left was the quartet.
Couple other questions, and you guys played, Army personnel wearing Army uniforms, but you wore a Marine marksmanship badge. Was that from your own days as a Marine?
I was in life. I was in the Marine Corps.
But that badge that was on the Army uniform, was that your own badge, or was that?
No, that wasn't. No, that was strictly. I didn't even know what it stood for, because, as I told you, that was an Army uniform, and I was in the Marine Corps. It's quite different.
Right. Okay. And then Frank Sutton, who went on to play Marine Sergeant.
That's right, with Gomer Pyle.
Yeah. That was a very violent scene you had with him in the bar. I mean, it was incredibly violent, and
I know.
I think after talking to you already today, it's like, oh, that's street fighting.
I loved those violent scenes.
Well, I can tell something worked.
Yeah, I don't know. They just came so easily to me,
Well, it was very convincing. It was actually scary to watch, and Frank Sutton. Did he? Any comments on him, one way or the other?
No, he seemed to be also. I didn't really hang out with him a lot, but he also seemed to be a nicer guy than he portrayed. Off screen, he was much more average kind of Joe, so to speak, as opposed to he wasn't a street fighter or grew up in bad negative areas and things of that sort. So he was an actor.
I see. Now, you mentioned Exodus. I just watched Exodus the other week, and I hope you don't mind me going a little bit cross against, not cross or anything, but changing the subject. And if I am,
not at all.
If that's an issue, let me know. But
no problem. It's your interview. Ask what you want.
Exodus was such a fantastic movie, and but Dan and I here, we're mostly aviators, but also motorcyclists and other gearhead stuff. So I was watching it, and your part, you drove a motorcycle.
Yeah, I used to have a motorcycle. I owned a motorcycle in life.
I think that's great. Now the question is, and I'll just personalize this a little bit. I don't like riding on the back with somebody on a motorcycle. I like driving a motorcycle usually by myself. That's what I feel most safe with.
Me too.
So Paul Newman rode behind you on that big old motorcycle, and
right.
Did he have any concerns, comments, anything that you could tell us about? He's a race car driver.
He didn't have any concerns at all about it. I mean, he asked me a couple of questions about whether I knew a motorcycle. I said I owned a Norton, and I owned a Harley Davidson, and I owned one other motorcycle. So he felt pretty safe.
I was just thinking, and you guys look great. I mean, it was a very professional looking ride and all that. But I was just thinking, I don't know. I actually didn't know you rode motorcycles. I mean,
Oh yeah, I used to. Yeah, I owned a Norton, and I owned a Harley Davidson, and one other bike. I had 3 different motorcycles when I was a young man, but when I moved to California, I gave them up because I had a motorcycle when I first moved out here to California, and I learned pretty quickly that it's kind of dangerous, because when you drive through these streets, they don't warn you, but they have these like little valleys that they have for drainage, and you're flying across you hit one of those, you're off the bike.
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, they don't warn you about them, but there it is.
Another thing that came to mind, you were obviously very popular in the U.S., but we came across a clip of you down in Buenos Aires, Argentina in
Oh, yeah,
1966.
Buenos Aires, right, yeah.
And the crowds were large
Enormous.
and enthusiastic. Were they Route 66 fans?
Oh, yes, very much so.
It was like you were the Beatles or something.
They knew that they were big fans of my albums, and they knew me also as a singer.
From the music, I see. Wow. Yeah. I guess that must have been pretty a fantastic day
Oh,
for
it
you.
was, I felt like, I felt like General MacArthur must have felt when he came home.
Really?
These crowds in these countries like Argentina and most of the other South American countries, I mean, these people are just wonderful to personalities, particularly when you're playing the kind of character that I was playing on television and movies. They love those kind of characters, and they really treat you with great respect and like to rip your clothes off.
Uh-huh. Well, that's interesting. That must have been so much fun.
But terrific, I mean, great respect. It's, quite different than it is in the States. I mean, they're very avid in the States, but, I mean, there they gotta protect you with police because they get rambunctious.
Well, it was amazing to see that clip and to know how.
I remember they took me from, I was appearing in Argentina, and they took me to a building. They took me to the roof of the building. We climbed over the roof of the building. We climbed down to the other building, and then we went in the elevator down to the cellar, went across to another building, and went up to get to the theater that I was appearing at. And when I got out of the elevator, these people came out of the walls. I don't know where they came from, but they knew exactly what the route was, And they, pulled me through the crowds and so forth. They took pieces of my jacket. So when I got on the stage, I had to perform in effect. They ripped the jacket off, and then, of course, when the performance was over and we came out of the subterranean cellar in 3 buildings over to go to the hotel, they had the street blocked off.
Wow. Like the Beatles or something.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I loved it, but I couldn't believe it.
I think it's wonderful. It
was terrific. And it was the same in Argentina as it was in all of the, Brazil and so forth. It was amazing, just amazing.
Fine.
That they knew what was going on in the States and on television and so forth. It was great. It was great.
So, I think we've heard a lot of really good information. I did have one other question about one of the producers and directors,
Okay.
Sam Manners. How much did he interface with you?
Sam was on the road with us all the time, and he was kind of the right arm of Burt Leonard, and he had the same attitude that Burt had about the shows, and he was pretty firm about a lot of things. A good man to have around, an Italian. Of course, you wouldn't know it by the name Sam Manners,
Right.
but he was an Italian. He was a great guy to have on the road because he represented Burt and he knew exactly what Burt wanted. And whenever we got into trouble with some of the locals or other people and so forth and so on, he knew how to deal with it and handle it. And whenever there was any, the only trouble I ever had was with one director, as I told you, when he didn't want me to know anything about music, and I said I can't do that, And he said he was going to walk off the set, and I said, walk off the set.
Mm-hmm.
So then Burt called and said, what's the problem? And I told him, I said, Burt, you hire these guys, it's okay. You ride me out of the show, no problem. And I told him what the problem was, and he said no. So he fired the director. Which is what he should
There you go. Another
You know.
another good
Well,
move.
I hope that gives it to you.
Yeah, and the logistics. I thought Sam Manners might be involved more with logistics too. I mean, there's a huge amount of
He
logistics.
was very much so. He was involved with getting locations. As a matter of fact, I had my brother with me, my older brother Harold, and he scouted locations. So he worked very closely with Sam.
I see.
Getting locations before we got there.
Wow.
Well, those locations were worth the effort. I mean, the
Oh,
legacy.
Yeah, because they would get the script, read the script, and then my brother Sam Manners, so forth, would secure locations, and then we would move from one city to another small city. And in those days, you'd go 50 miles, 25 miles, and these tiny little towns in Grand Isle, Louisiana, and so forth, they were totally different. Now you go 50 miles, 100 miles, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Big difference. But in those days, you go 25 miles, and the little towns there were totally different. The people were different. Everything was different, and we used local people and local situations and all that, which gave the script authenticity, and Bert would send the writer to the town so he could scout it, so that when he wrote the story, he'd know what was going on.
That's why it was so realistic and
You
such
got
good.
that?
It's actually a artifact, something that is
Well,
going
they
to.
don't do that anymore, I'll tell you that.
No, these are like historical documents on top of being high drama, and
Exactly.
with all the emotion.
No, we were fortunate in those days. It was a different set of, now it's everything is so politicized. It's so stupid. Everything is political now. It's this, it's that. In those days, it was the story. It was people. It didn't matter, what you believed politically. It all worked. But now, if you're not of the right political strain, so to speak, they want to kill you. I don't know. It's very different.
Very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. Very un-American in my view. But
It is, yeah, it is. Now, your roles in Naked City, they were heroic in many ways, as well as filled with the foibles of human existence
Exactly.
in
Exactly.
very trying circumstances. Any final thoughts on Naked City you'd like to leave with us with?
Well, I wish there were still those kind of programs around. That's all I can say. I mean, it's so sad to think that we have that as an example, that producers and directors can look at that, and yet there's nothing around like that.
Right. Well, we'd like to do.
It's sad because that's it's a model, and it certainly works. It still works because it's still on the air. People see it. People relate to it. But for some reason or another, we become more superficial. I don't know.
Yeah, and we have an interest in doing some more of that genre. So maybe.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And while you're at it, do me a favor, will you? While you're at doing that, do me a favor, will you?
Yes.
Make a snowball and throw it at somebody for me.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll do that. We'll do a snap wheel.
Good to talk to you. Thank you.
Hey,
Okay.
thank you so much and happy birthday.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you, sir.
Bye.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye.